Hey, everybody. You're listening to The List. I'm your host, Ryan. Joining me is my lovely co host, Katie.
Hello.
And we are continuing our top 100 countdown of the greatest movies of all time to let you know whether they are bucket list worthy or chuck it list worthy.
We fully committed.
I went all in, all in. So today we
I was going to
are
make a
on.
Gilmore Girls joke, and then I decided not to make it, but then I wanted to let everybody know I restrained myself. So
Thank you.
pat myself on the back and let's continue. Okay, I'm just going to say it. You're all in. You're all in like Luke Danes. Okay, go ahead.
I don't get it.
It's okay. You're uncultured. So
is Luke Danes? Is that the boyfriend?
Well,
The
sometimes.
diner guy? Is that the diner dude? Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I know.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So we are on number 80.
We're making headway in this list.
Of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Directed by Steven Spielberg. You ready for a summary?
I'm ready. Hit me with that summary.
Let's do it. So Close Encounters of the Third Kind is a film about a man named Roy Neary. He's played by Richard Dreyfuss. He's an Indiana electric lineman who finds himself, finds his life kind of flipped upside down when he has a close encounter with a UFO, which spurs him into this obsessed cross-country quest for answers, and it all leads up to this momentous event in Wyoming. I like the movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. But I got some facts for you.
Let's go. Let's hear the facts.
I may have done a little bit of a deep dive on some stuff.
Let's go. That's exciting.
But it's way out there, some of it. So, but my first fact is that this movie in 1978 was nominated for 8 Oscars.
Is that the highest nominated so far, or did one of them have 12 Oscar noms?
I can't remember. I want to say there was more more nominations, but they had 8 Oscar nominations and like 40 other nominations in other festivals and
very cool.
But they only won 1. So they were nominated for Best Actress. That was Melinda Dillon, her character as Jillian. Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Art and Set Decoration, Best Sound, Best Film Editing, Best Visual Effects, Best Original Score, and then they did get a Special Achievement Award for Sound Effects and Editing. If you had to guess what this won an Academy Award for, what would you guess?
Best Set Decoration.
Ooh, close, but no. Best Cinematography.
Yeah. Well,
Vilmos Zsigmond. I probably butchered his name, but I can see that. I would have thought that it would have been the visual effects.
Yeah.
Because I think they were pretty stunning for back in the day.
The one who was nominated for Best Actress, was that Roy's wife in the movie? Or was it the mom?
The other the mom of the small child who also had the encounter with the aliens.
That's interesting that she got the Best Actress nomination. I see why she didn't win, which was a really rude thing to say. I'm sorry. I just mean of all the acting in that movie, I'm surprised that she was the one who was nominated. But I think we'll get it. Should I just tell you why I feel that way or save it for acting?
Let's go now. Let's just dive in.
I feel like this movie is my worst nightmare in a lot of ways. I'm always really afraid of something happening to children. Kidnapped by aliens? Let's go. No taxes, no debt. Like, beam me up, Scotty. I'm here for it. But no, it's not the alien thing. This movie was really scary in a lot of ways to me, and none of it had anything to do with the aliens. But one of the things that's scariest to me is imagining something happening to children, and just her acting as a mom was a little off for me. I don't know.
She didn't seem really concerned about her child wandering out into the middle of the night into the forest. I thought that was a little weird.
Your window in the middle of the night and your toddler's standing on the lawn and then giggles and runs off, and you don't like. I had this visceral reaction where I was like, jump out of the second story window and go get him.
Serious. Yeah.
And she's just like, I run downstairs. So that's what I mean.
Little Timmy,
what are you doing outside? It's 3 a.m.
Barry, what are you doing?
Oh, you silly little boy. Yeah. I'll meander on down the stairs and grab a cup of coffee and then come get you.
I mean, maybe, we're 80s, 90s kids. So, we would go off for a long time. And, they had to put the commercials on the television. Do you know where your children are?
Where are your children tonight?
Maybe in the 70s, it was just like,
oh, well.
We really don't know where our children are, and we don't care. So maybe that was believable for the time, but as a parent today, it's like
it was very jarring to me. I was like, "There's no way you react this way as a parent to this situation." So it's not that she was a bad actress.
It was just
I'm sorry for what I said.
Your
the reaction didn't seem real.
Suspended in that moment.
No way. Okay. Let's hear the next fact.
I agree. So, fast fact number 2. So this movie's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, is there a first and a second kind? Well, turns out there is.
Really?
Turns out there's actually 5 kinds.
All right. Let's hear them.
So there are 5 categories of UFO encounters.
But who made these categories? The government?
I don't know who made them, but UFO enthusiasts have made them, I guess.
Gotcha.
The first kind is when a person sees a UFO within 150 meters. So it's like 492 feet. That's a little bit longer than a football field.
So you see something weird.
That's UFO.
That's it. Okay.
Like a little bit longer than a football field. Okay. That's the first kind. Encounters of the second kind is when a UFO leaves evidence behind, like scorch marks or indentions in the earth, crop circles, that type of deal. So that's a second encounter of the second kind. Encounter of the third kind is when you have visible occupants inside of a UFO.
Okay.
The fourth kind is when a person's been taken or even maybe experimented on inside of an alien craft. And then the fifth kind is direct communication between aliens and humans.
So why was it called Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yeah, because I was like, it's kind of like Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, right?
Of the every kind.
Well...
I'm asking because he doesn't see anyone in the UFO when he sees the UFO. He
does.
So anyway, at
first. on the first.
So probably, I don't know if that's a spoiler, but
he doesn't really say whether he actually saw something in the UFO or not, but there's elements of all of these. I guess,
I agree.
Except for
I just wonder why they went with the third.
I guess the little kid had the fourth kind.
Maybe.
And I don't know what they mean by direct communication, because they kind of had direct communication, but it really wasn't
communication.
I don't know. That's straightforward.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get into that later.
Let's hear
That's as far as I went, because I was like, this is a rabbit hole that I'm going to go down.
Even you talking about it, I'm thinking about how badly I want to read about it and go chase down aliens.
Yeah. Oh, I knew that was a rabbit hole that I was going to get sucked into for
I have been on some Reddit subreddits that I have to take myself out of because it goes from these people are crazy conspiracy theorists to this is kind of nuts to what if, and then I'm like, okay, you gotta get out of this and get back into the real world real quick.
And so then I also started looking up what are the top 10 states with the highest UFO sightings.
Why do I feel like it's going to be out west?
See, that's what I thought too. And
okay,
some of
so
it
tell me.
is. I would have thought New Mexico would have been in that top one just because
I heard them say
Roswell
Area 31 in this. They said Area 31, and I was like, oh, is this an Area 41 kind of thing? But they never said that. They only said Area 31.
I don't remember that. But
in the beginning when they're talking on the radars. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So number 10, North Carolina. This is based on 2015, so it may have changed since then. But number 10, North Carolina.
Okay.
Number 9, Michigan. Number 8, Ohio. 7, Pennsylvania. Number 6 is Arizona. Number 5 is New York. Number 4 is Texas. 3 is Washington. Number 2 is Florida. And number 1, California.
Wow.
It makes sense, though, that the places with the highest population density would have more
and that Florida's on that
sightings.
List period. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to see UFOs,
go there.
You're more likely to see them in those places, at least 2015 anyway. And then the final scene, my fast fact number 4, was actually filmed at Devil's Tower in Wyoming.
That's nice. They filmed on location.
Yeah. Cool. And then I was like, why is this place called Devil's Tower? And so I started going into that.
Another rabbit hole. Let's hear it.
Yes, definitely. So supposedly this was a misnomer. There was a colonel named Richard Dodge. He had an expedition out in that area. And when he was interacting with the local Indians there, he misinterpreted the name for their tower as the place. It's called the Bad Gods Tower.
Okay.
And so they named it Devil's Tower after that. Okay. But actually, most of the Native Americans there actually call it Bear Lodge.
Oh, okay. There's lots of bears there?
Well, and that's the other rabbit hole I went down to. So why do they call it Bear Lodge? So I guess there's a lot of lore and legends concerning the formation of these towers, right? They're called buttes. Anyway, for you people who are into geography. But most of the ones that I was reading involve either a group of bears or a giant bear chasing either a person or a group of people. And these people that are being chased basically become desperate and they pray to the Great Spirit, and the Great Spirit lifts up the earth. Cool. So the bears can't get them. Yeah. And the bears are trying to get up this steep tower, and their claws end up leaving these long striations in the side of the mountain.
That's so cool.
And that's why it's called Bear Lodge.
Humanity in general is very creative, huh? I love that.
We like to make stories.
We do. We're storytellers. Yeah, film, I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty interesting. So
that is very interesting.
Those are my fast facts.
I have one fact.
Okay.
So Steven Spielberg went on Fresh Air, the NPR show.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember, I think it was Terry Gross, said your mother was, one of his parents was a musician and one was an electrician. Mm-hmm. And she was like, how do you think that played into the way the aliens communicate in this movie? And he sat there for a minute in silence and then was like, I never thought of that. Thank you for that insight. And he's like, I guess it just wove its way into my story without me even noticing. And I think that's one of the...
Oh, you're talking about how the music, they almost mm-hmm. communicate through music.
And light.
And lights.
Yeah. And I find that so interesting because a lot of times I see stuff from my life in my writing and it takes me a couple of read throughs and I'm like, oh, but it just goes to show that so much of our creative energy comes from places we don't even consider. And a lot of us is always just woven into any of the stories we tell. And
yeah,
I thought it was funny that he thanked her for her insight into his own movie. Okay. So, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
So we already talked a little bit about the acting. So let's dive into that a little bit more. So we talked about some of it. Let's talk about Richard Dreyfuss. So we saw Richard Dreyfuss in The Graduate. Or no. Yeah, American Graffiti.
We did.
A very young Richard Dreyfuss in American we did. Graffiti.
Richard Dreyfuss?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We did see him. That's true. That's where I know him from.
And it's really nice to see how he had grown from that initial film that he was in to this one, because I thought he did a fantastic job. He was really, really great. I was reading that originally they did not offer him this film. Steve McQueen was supposed to be the lead actor, but he turned it down because he said he couldn't cry on the spot. And then they offered it to Jack Nicholson.
He probably would have been pretty good too.
They offered it to Richard Gere.
And none of them wanted it. It's such a career maker.
Well, I think some of them were like just busy. Scheduling conflicts, and so they were doing other things. And Gene Hackman.
Yeah, Gene Wilder.
Not Gene Wilder.
He was filming Willy Wonka at the time. Okay.
Oh, is that right? And so a lot of big name stars, and basically Richard Dreyfuss was working with Steven Spielberg as they were filming Jaws, I think. And it sounded like he would just like go to Steven Spielberg like every day and just like, Jack Nicholson's weird. He's not good for this
you
part.
Don't want him.
So-and-so is not. He's like, and basically it sounded like he just wore him down, and Steven Spielberg was like, okay, fine, you're going to be in this movie.
Every friend I've ever made is someone I wore down into hanging out with me. So I get it.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really funny story, but he killed it. There's a scene in there where he is, sitting at the dinner table after he had this encounter, and he's really struggling because he's just become obsessed, and like he knows he's losing his mind, and he's just sitting at the dinner table, and he just like boom, just breaks down. And it is such an emotional moment in the film because he's obviously distraught and needs help and is questioning his own sanity, and his family is just like, you're nuts, right? And it was a really stirring moment in the film, and I thought he was great.
Yeah, the acting was incredible. So the movie starts off so normal. It's basically starts off with just this family living their life, and then they have this close encounter. It's two different families. They have this close encounter with a UFO that's in their town, and then they're both called to follow this UFO or figure out where it's going to be next. That's basically the premise of the story. So it opens up with them just living normal life. Then it skips to the first encounter, and then it devolves from there into obsession and trying to find where they're being called to go, right? So talking about the acting, the slow unraveling of Richard Dreyfuss's character, Roy, the slow unraveling of his stability in this real world was spot on. And I think that part of that is writing and part of it is the acting, but he executed it perfectly to go from someone who has 2 feet firmly in the real world. It seemed like maybe he had a little inkling that UFOs were out there and he was interested in it, but he goes from someone who's stable to someone who's not so stable, to someone who's questioning his own sanity, and then to someone who doesn't know where his place in the world is anymore. And it just was so real and relatable. And he captured it perfectly. His acting was amazing. And just so real and raw. All of this was very real. It's a hard watch. It's very difficult to watch, and I think it's a testament to his acting skills that I mean, I hated him in the beginning. He was so annoying in the beginning. Just completely unrelatable to me. The scene where his wife is talking to him and having to say the same stuff over and over again, and he's just ignoring her. And he's not ignoring her maliciously. He's just
that's really surprising. That's not relatable to you.
I didn't say it wasn't relatable. I said it was annoying.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. Gotcha.
It kind of reminded me of Nashville in the beginning. It cleaned up towards the end, but in the beginning, there's so much noise and stuff going on. And
in those initial scenes in the house just with all the kids and the TV in the background and the wife,
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on there, but there's a moment in that film, and it's very towards the beginning.
Yeah.
When he's sitting at the railroad tracks trying to get to a job location because a lot of the city has lost power. He's trying to figure out where he's going. And then all of a sudden there's this bright light that hits him, and lots of stuff in his car starts like going crazy and, elevating off the ground and stuff.
Levitating.
At that moment, like, wow, you are sucked in so hard right there. And like, from that moment on, like, I was there.
Well, me too. I loved that. I was there from the beginning.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
He just was annoying to me is all I'm saying in the beginning, and completely unrelatable. I did not care about him. I did not want to watch him. I said, he's really on my nerves. And you said, well, he's the main character of the movie. And I was like, no. But what my comment I was going to make is that to take me from being really irritated with somebody to making me empathize with them and feel for them and care about what happens to them is a feat in both storytelling and acting. He's not a lovable, I can't wait to see what happens to him character. The way he acts and what happens to him and the way he reacts to it and the emotions he shows makes you start caring about him and wanting to see what happens to him. And that's just really is just a testament to his acting to me.
Well, and I think the fact that you found him annoying in the beginning is really good acting,
so
because
annoying.
He had to be, because they had to show that their marriage and their family relationship was already kind of on the fritz, and then this happened and it really threw things
right
off kilter for him. And so I think that was an important
setup.
Story plot setup. Exactly. So I would rate, the acting's pretty high up there. I'm going to say 8.6.
I thought Richard Dreyfuss was fantastic. I already said that I didn't really love Melissa. What's her name?
The character who plays Jillian.
Melinda, I'm sorry. So Jillian, who in the second family that's kind of in the main cast, is a single mom and her son. Her acting was not great to me. It was very flat and didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that your kid disappears in an alien invasion and you're just kind of like, that really sucks. I don't know. It just didn't feel right to me. I will say that what makes the acting the score I'm going to give is the children. I feel like Steven Spielberg is very good at casting children. He has a way of finding child actors that are really going to knock your socks off in a mundane way. They're not it's like Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. AI, Drew Barrymore, there's some really good child actors in those things.
And it's the same thing in this movie with the one boy who gets abducted. Adorable, by the way. Such a cute little kid. But his acting and delivery of all the lines he was given, so good. The kids who are involved in the main family that's breaking up, the family that's on the rocks, and even more on the rocks after dad starts to unravel. Those kids were so great. The way they fought like brothers and sisters fight, the way they talked to him like he was his real dad, which, by the way, I believe one of them was his son. He's credited on IMDb with the last name of Dreyfuss, so I think it probably was his son.
That's cool.
But they were great in the normal scenes of a normal family, and then in the scenes where the family's fighting. There's specifically one scene that really hurt me to watch. We had someone watch this movie with us. We're going to do some bonus content with them later on, but we were watching it with them, and there's a specific scene where Roy is really devolving. He has seen something he can't explain, and now he's drawn to it and cannot get it out of his mind. And he's just asking himself, am I losing my mind? And he's having a really hard time. And when you're going through something like that, you need your spouse like to be there for you and to support you. And his wife just can't. Whether she can't or won't, I don't know, because of their already having relationship issues. I don't know, but he's really hurt and losing it, and she can't hold it together. And they have this breakdown fight where already the fight is hard to watch. And that's so well acted between the two of them. But then the kids come into play because they hear their parents screaming and fighting and yelling and banging on doors. And the kids just come in, and it's a very real representation of
just like, you're a crybaby, stop it. You know,
the son comes in and sees his dad fully dressed in the shower, laying there, losing his mind. And he comes in and starts screaming at him, you're a crybaby, you're pathetic. And I'm just sobbing, like I was losing it. And the person we were watching with was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I am ruined by this scene. It was the combination of so many things, of a parent who was struggling and trying to hold it together for their family, of kids who are seeing their parents fight in a way children should never have to see their parents fight. And they're lashing out, the little kids are crying. It just the all of the acting in that scene was so real and raw to me that I was just distraught. So that really got me. The family's acting really was the elevation in this movie to me, acting wise, and I'm giving the acting a 9.5.
By the way, that scene that leads up to that, where he's at the dinner table and he's trying to make the tower out of the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
It's a really emotional, serious scene. And I guess the little girl who plays his daughter.
There's a fly in my mashed potatoes.
Yes. So that was not scripted.
Yeah. So for anybody who
and they almost all died laughing and ruined the whole scene, but they kept it together and it worked out great.
It really got me. The acting in this really got me because it was so raw. It was very real.
What about story?
The story and the acting go hand in hand again for me in this movie. I think the acting was so great because the story was so great. And I think there's a lot of ways that you can go with the premise of alien abduction. And it's like Steven Spielberg went with the most normal possible way. There are a lot of ways that you could make a movie about an encounter with aliens. And Steven Spielberg went with the most boring way possible. And I like that. Boring is probably, I can tell by your face, you don't like the word choice of boring, but I don't mean it was like boring.
He could have gone really outrageous.
Exactly. It was very grounded.
Subtle. I thought the pacing was excellent.
Amazing.
The only flaw with the pacing was towards the end. I thought it was drawn out a little too long. However, the lead up to that was so suspenseful.
Yeah.
That it kept me riveted the entire film.
Yeah. I would like to say, to your comment about it being too long, we watched the special edition.
We did.
And there are longer, that scene is much longer in the special edition than it is in the normal one. But you're right, the pacing was incredible. The tension was outrageously good. It's when I say boring, I just mean it was very real. It's like what would really happen.
Everyday slice of life.
It was so
really flipped upside down with an extraterrestrial encounter.
And it's almost like what would really happen.
Mm-hmm.
It genuinely seemed so real.
Yeah, it wasn't War of the Worlds where like everybody's, being destroyed and everybody's freaking out. It's just like,
yeah. And I don't say that as a criticism. I love stories that are real. That's my favorite kind of story.
Yeah, story character driven. Is up there. 8.7.
I'm giving it another 9.5. The story was incredible.
Cool.
How do you make a story about an alien encounter character driven? How do you do that? It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the aliens. It's about the characters. I love that.
Cinematography.
Was great. I want to okay, go ahead.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Just some cool scenes, cool shots, with the tower in the background. The special effects for this time, I think, even hold up nowadays.
Yeah, I
agree.
For the
most part.
There are a couple where I was
like, they did a lot with so little.
Yeah.
This film, I'm really kind of jealous for people who got to see it on the big screen, because this film is meant, like, I knew from the moment with the flashing light that this film was meant to be seen on a big screen.
Yeah.
And I bet you it was an experience just watching it on our regular television, but I bet in the theaters with surround sound and
I can't imagine
a big screen, I bet was so immersive and groundbreaking at the time that it blew people's minds. And
imagine having to drive home from the theater in the dark after seeing that.
Yeah.
Imagine seeing that at a drive-in.
That'd be crazy. Yeah.
That would be crazy.
That'd be cool. So if I ever see it come out, sometimes
we're going.
The theaters have these old movies that they'll play.
Yeah.
We're going to go see that in the big screen if we ever get to see that. So I thought it was great. Cinematography, 9.3.
Yeah. I want to talk about something a little different about the cinematography, and that's what I notice in the other Steven Spielberg films I've seen. I've only seen two others, E.T. and Jaws. And please tell me those are both...
You've seen more than that, I'm sure. But yes, those are.
Probably, but thinking off the top of my head, those are the only two I can think of that I've seen. Yeah. But maybe I'm only making those connections because I've noticed it in both of those movies too. He does such a good job of making everything lived in. When you're watching his movies, nothing is glossy. Everything is very realistic, and it complements the acting to me, and it complements the character-driven, grounded stories that when you see these people's houses, they look like houses pulled out of the 70s and 80s. They look like if you walked into someone's home, a suburban home in the middle of the afternoon in the late 1970s, this is what you would have seen. And it didn't seem like a set to me. It just seemed like he really curated and cultivated a real place, and that just adds to the cinematography for me and adds to the movie in general. And he also has a way of creating a vibe that I don't know how to explain. And I wish I had the words for it, but something about his cinematography and about his set design creates a vibe. And I liked it. It made me more immersed in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And this may not be, I feel like this is cinematography. I'm just going to commit to it. The way he makes his cast look so like haggard. I don't know if that's the right word, but nobody's Hollywood shiny. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's they're just real suburban family to me. Overworked dad and harried mom and kids who spent all day playing outside. I liked the scene where his wife finally has enough and leaves with the kids. I did not like that scene. That scene broke my heart, but I liked how he has this moment where he's inside losing his mind right before his wife leaves. He can't resist the call from his encounter that's now like inside of his soul. Mm-hmm. And he looks out of the window in this torment and he sees people mowing their lawns and working on their cars and playing outside in the sprinklers. And I just liked that. I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but I liked that stark difference between the horrible.
It's to show that in just a visual representation that
life is going on outside,
ordinary and mundane for everyone else now, and his life can never go back to what it was.
Right, and I love that. That was such good cinematography to me.
And now everybody else around him knows it as well.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that probably commits him to just go for it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like what commits him to just go for it is that his family leaves. What does he have left? What do you have left after your family leaves you? After your family abandons you in the hardest time of your life, what do you have left to live for? So you might as well. I mean, he even calls his wife. He doesn't leave. His wife leaves him. And even then he stays in the home until he calls his wife and says, please don't do this. I love you. I love my family. I want to see my kids. And she's like, screw you. I've written you off. And only then is he willing to go and chase the call that has been nagging at him. So I know this is cinematography, but boy, do I feel for him. It just was sad. But I thought, again, he's using such normal, grounded ways to tell you something extraordinary. It's just people outside mowing their lawns and washing their cars, but it's saying so much. So the cinematography to me is a 9.
Wow factor.
I also want to say visual effect, the cinematography is crazy to me. Beyond the normalcy that's in the first 3/4 of the movie, when you get to the last fourth, the cinematography is still stunning to me. Can you do wow factor first?
Okay. I mean, the wow factor is the grandeur that you feel in this film. To me, just the overall concept. I mean, we're talking about literally a supernatural event, basically, and the lead up to it is so suspenseful, and it becomes this really almost grandiose experience towards the end with all the sound. Beautiful score, by the way. John Williams did an excellent job, as he always does in his movies.
How he managed to create wonder, a sense of wonder with music, was just amazing to me.
And then the sound effects that go along with how they communicate with the aliens, and the visual effects. I think those are really the wow factor for me. And of course, I mean, we already talked about the acting, but really that's the thing that kind of sets this movie apart, is the visual effects and the just overall scope and grandeur of this movie is otherworldly.
I think the wow factor for me is how the aliens communicate. That's so clever to me that they use music. And the scene where they're capturing a group of people in India singing and chanting the sound that the aliens make was really amazing to me. And that they were able to deduce from that the sound the ship was making, and that is how the ship is trying to communicate with them, was so cool to me. And also the wow factor to me is just how you take a movie about alien encounters and turn it into a story about one man's torment when his life is just upended and something has changed inside of him that he doesn't know how to deal with. That's a wow factor for me too. I'm going to say a 9.
Yeah, I think a 9.5 for me is the wow factor. All right, let's rank it.
My list right now, my top 10, starts with Good Will Hunting and ends with Terms of Endearment. I'm really happy with everything on my list. So I'm finally at the point where dropping stuff off is really difficult for me. But I know for a fact Terms of Endearment is gone, and this movie really touched me. Overall, not only is it an incredible movie, visually stunning, great acting, it really just touched me. So this movie is going to go up high for me, and I think this movie is going number 4, even above Wuthering Heights for me, which is saying something. I really, really loved this movie. It was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch, but I still loved it.
Before I share mine, I do want to read a comment from a listener about last week's Nashville.
Oh no! Don't you dare!
We want to say thanks to Debbie. She says, I agree with Ryan and really did not like Nashville. I thought it was a hot mess. Debbie, I knew you were a smart woman before. Now I know you're a genius.
Debbie, please.
Thanks for the comments, though. We appreciate those. All right. So I have Double Indemnity still as my number 1 at the moment. Yankee Doodle Dandy is still on there.
That is still on your list?
Somehow. I'm looking at my list and I'm not really super happy with.
It's hard to make the decision one by one.
But man, so this movie, I'm gonna move. I don't like where Pulp Fiction is. Yankee Doodle Dandy is definitely coming off the list. I think this movie probably deserves to be higher up on my list, but I'm just going to put it at 10. I think it probably deserves to be in the number 7 or 8 slot, but I think I enjoyed Pulp Fiction, I think, just slightly better than this movie. So I think both of those movies should really be in the 7 and 8 slots, but the only reason I'm putting it here on 10 is because I think Pulp Fiction is a little bit better, and I think Pulp Fiction probably, when we redo our mulligan, is going to move up, and so is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I'm really shocked.
Yeah, I really think it's probably about a 7 for me, maybe I'm higher. Shocked. It's a really great film. Is it a top 100 movie?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
What do you think?
100% yes. Is it a bucket list movie?
Yeah, I think it is. I think this is definitely a movie you should watch before you die. I think even despite it being filmed so long ago, and despite the jumps and leaps we've had in special effects, it still is so stunning. And yeah, I think it's a bucket list movie.
I think this is where I'm kind of on the fence. It's a really good movie. Definitely a top 100 of all time. If it was in big screen, I would say 100% bucket list. If you're just watching it on your TV at home, I'm like, oh, it's like right there on the cusp. I got to commit though. Yes.
Good.
Yes. But just barely. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
But amazing movie. So I really enjoyed it.
I just am so glad we've done this because I never would have watched any of these movies.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't have. So
I wouldn't have.
It's really interesting to see as we are making our list how just the exposure to the other films
has
changes our opinion of the ones that we've seen before.
I agree.
And so that's gonna be really interesting when we do our mulligan to see what stays and what gets moved around.
I agree. Yeah.
And that's coming up in about 4 episodes here. So that'll be our 25th episode coming.
That's crazy. How fun.
Yeah. 26th, I guess. But next week we are doing The Green Mile starring Tom Hanks.
I think I'm going to cry.
I think we all are going to cry. But
it's about prison, right?
You'll yes, it's
okay. I thought so. Okay.
It's in a prison. I've never seen the movie actually, which is surprising to me because I've heard people say you have to watch this movie. so many times, and I just haven't gotten around to watch it for some reason.
Right.
And so I'm excited to watch that. So tune in next week and we'll talk about The Green Mile. Watch it with us. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you thought about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'm kind of curious, has anybody out there had a close encounter?
If you have had any kind of experience, DM us on Instagram and let us know. It's Ryan and Kat's List on Instagram.
Not to get too crazy, but I swear we saw one.
It was weird. Whatever we saw was weird.
It was some weird, crazy lights in the sky moving in a way that we've never seen before.
It was startling, to say the least.
It was so strange. I'm not going to say it was. I'm not going to say it wasn't, though. Now I feel like, now I know how Richard Dreyfuss feels,
right?
Claiming this out loud.
I will not make mashed potatoes.
I'm eating those. What do you mean? I'm not making a tower.
Sure.
Anyway, thanks, guys. This is The List. I'm Ryan.
I'm Katie.
Catch you later.